Hi, I'm Parneet Jaggi, and in this video, we're going to be elaborately talking about the essay Seven Rules of Writing, written by V.S. Naipaul. Now, V.S. Naipaul, actually, being a successful and a popular writer, also a Nobel Prize winner, a Booker Prize nominee, he is giving seven rules for the writers who are actually beginning to write for an efficient and effective writing skill. It's a very brief essay in which he gives us 7 points in brief as to how beginner writers should go about with their skills of writing. So he says one of the first things I tell my students is that it helps to follow a formula when you're starting out as a writer. For example, while aspiring journalists try their hand at writing a news report, they should keep in mind the inverted pyramid structure and divide loosely their story structure into introduction, explanation, corroboration, and qualification. So, here in the very introductory part, he is kind of giving a suggestion. Now, this was actually at the request of people, readers, and even the journalists. There was a news magazine called Tehelka, for which, on the request of that magazine, he wrote this essay. And this is a kind of a treatise for the beginners, in which he says that one of the first things I'm telling my students usually is that there is a set formula. When you start with the writing process as a creative writer, there is a set formula, just as the aspiring, the new journalists try their hands at writing their news reports, and they keep in mind that inverted pyramid structure. That means they keep in mind a pattern of writing a news report in which that structure goes into like first the introduction, then the explanation, then the corporation, and then the qualification. So there has to be a set structure for the beginners of a typical style of writing which should be kept in mind, which actually helps to begin with an efficient style of writing. I also tell my students that there are a million ways to say the same thing. So once they become confident about their writing, they should experiment and break the rules if necessary. The only thing that matters, I try to impress upon them, is the reader. As long as the reader is hooked, it does not matter what formula has been used. So he says that I keep teaching and telling my students that there are innumerable ways, there are a million ways to say the same thing in a number of different styles and patterns. So once they become confident about their writing, then they should start experimenting and then they can break the rules. But initially, when a writer or a student, when he starts writing something in his own words, he should follow a set pattern, kinds of the rules that he should follow, so that he makes his writing more convenient, more simple, more clear. And he says the only thing that matters for the writer is actually that the reader should be impressed. The impact on the reader is the most essential thing for the writer. And as long as the reader is captured, he is hooked, the reader is interested in your writing, then it doesn't matter what formula has been used by you. So the first point that he gives to the beginner writers is do not write long sentences. A sentence should not have more than 10 or 12 words. So he suggests in the very first place that a beginner should not write long sentences. On an average, a sentence should have not more than 10 or 12 words. That means it should be precise, it should be compact, so that it is presentably more clear to the reader. Secondly, he says each sentence should make a clear statement. It should add to the statement that went before. A good paragraph is a series of clear linked statements. So here he says sentences should be clear. They should make clear statements. That means this sentence that you're writing should link up to the previous sentence that you had written. That means there should be a linkage, there should be a rhythm, there should be a pattern in your writing, and that pattern should show up in a good paragraph. That means clear linked statements. The third point he says, do not use big words. If your computer tells you that your average word is more than 5 letters long, there is something wrong. The use of small words compels you to think about what you are writing. Even difficult words can be broken down into small words. So this is a suggestion that is given to the beginners. He says, try to avoid long words, words that are more than 5 letters long. Use short, sweet, simple, concise words, because the use of small words makes you think about what you are writing, means gives you space and time to know, to think what exactly you are writing about. And if you have difficult ideas, do break them into smaller words. Next point he says, never use words whose meaning you're not sure of. If you break this rule, you should look for other work. So he says you should be absolutely clear about what you are writing. You should not use the words that you're not clear as to what they mean or what they might imply. Because you may think and write something else, but the reader may catch some different meaning, so the interpretations may be varied and the interpretations may be misleading, which could lead to very devastating effects. So you should not break this rule. Next he says a beginner should avoid using adjectives, except use of color, size and number. Use as few adverbs as possible. Now this is a very grammatical kind of a hint which says that when you are writing a sentence, avoid the use of adjectives, especially for a beginner. Because normally when we write, for example, we write a good book. So that doesn't mean anything. Good means what? Either we specify that objective, like he says you can use color, you can use size, you can use number, but do not use general adjectives as well as the general adverbs. For example, we say do this work nicely. Now what does the word nicely mean here? We can say do the work in a correct manner, but he says try to avoid these general adjectives and adverbs. Next he says avoid the abstract, always go for the concrete. Now what is an abstract? Abstract is an abstract noun, like we say it's good, it's beautiful, it's nice, well, all's well, all's good. So there is nothing concrete about it. You have to define the thing, you have to define the noun, define the word that you are, define the idea that you are trying to express in your writing. So he says, try to avoid the abstract expressions which do not give a clear picture of what you want to say. In fact, go for the concrete. Concrete means clear, crystal clear, solid images. The last point that he is emphasizing here is every day for 6 months at least, practice writing in this way. Small words, short, clear, concrete sentences. It may be awkward, but it is training you in the use of language. It may even be getting rid of the bad language habits you picked up at the university. You may go beyond these rules after you've thoroughly understood and mastered them. So, the last point that he wants to make here is that every day, at least for 6 months, follow these rules. Follow these hints, follow these suggestions that he is making. Use small words, use small sentences, short, clear and concrete sentences which should be free of any abstract images, adjectives and adverbs. He says it may look odd to you, it may sound awkward to you, but this is the training that you should be using in the use of language. And you may even get rid of, you may even free yourself of the bad words or the bad usages that you had learned in your college or university life. But you need to practice all these at least for 6 months. And after that, when you become established, you get established as a writer, you can break these rules or you can go beyond these rules once you have thoroughly understood and mastered the language. So this is all he has to say in this essay, 7 Rules of Writing. And I hope V.S.Naipaul's essay and his suggestions are quite useful and beneficial to all the students who start writing in one way or the other. So thank you for now.